Let's troubleshoot the deadlift with two related points here. First and most important related point is that when you're setting up for a deadlift, that your spine be long, straight, and extended, okay? Not rounded. We don't want rounded tucked tail. So if you are struggling to get into neutral or even an extended spine when you deadlift, it's probably an indication that your hamstrings are tight. So let's mobilize the hamstrings a little bit, and let's consider lifting from a higher platform. So I'm not using any plates on here because later in this video I want you to be able to see what my knees and shins are doing, and the plates would cover that up. But if I did have regular bumper plates on here, the bar would be about mid-shin, which is a traditional deadlift height. But if I don't have the spinal extension or hamstring and hip mobility to do that, then what I should do is just deadlift from a higher position using a trap bar, or by placing some implements under your bumper plates so that you can lift from a higher position. And then what will happen is, over time, imagine that I'm starting at like my knee, over time with good practice technique and some intentional spinal extension and hip mobility work, you'll be able to start lifting with perfect technique from a lower position, which I would encourage everyone to do, okay? So the first thing that we're talking about here is that long, straight, and hopefully even extended spine. Now, related to that is how we initiate the deadlift movement. And this is a great technique point that I want you to think about. And it would really help if you could do some reps with a mirror in your profile so that you could watch yourself, though I wouldn't recommend turning your head to look if you're ever using a heavy weight. But if you're just doing some practice reps, it could be helpful. At the very least, you could film yourself. But in a perfect world, what you want to do with a deadlift is this. So in my initial setup, my shins are vertical, my knees are above my ankles, and my hips are a little bit higher than my knees, and my shoulders are a little bit higher than my hips. Okay, so right now my spine is in about a, 35-degree angle, let's call it. You want to maintain that same spinal angle until the bar gets to your knees. Once the bar is at your knees, then you drive your hips forward. And then on the way down, you push your hips back until you get to your knees and get back to that 35-degree spinal position. And then you sit down through your knees and hips together. So it's 35 degrees, let's call it. Don't get caught up on that number. You can just see that it's a consistent spinal angle until I get to my knees. And then when I get there, I drive my hips forward into extension, into finishing. Then I'll inhale as I go down, pushing my hips backward into a hinge. And then at this point, when I get to my knees, I can start sitting down with my knees. So it's straighten the knees, keep the spinal angle the same, get to the knees, drive the hips forward. Now, we push the hips back, feeling the hamstrings engage and stretch. We get to the knees, and then we sit back down. And so that's what you want to practice, is the spinal angle integrity until you get to the knees, and then getting back to that spinal angle and keeping the integrity on the way down. Practicing with a dowel, a broom, or just a barbell is great technique practice before you go apply it to heavier weights. I would highly recommend filming yourself, or if you can, doing some practice in a mirror so that you can check yourself out, and really emphasizing or focusing your intention on making the spine longer and straighter through the top of the head, and also pulling the shoulders back to make the chest proud. By both intending to make the spine longer and straighter and pulling the shoulders back to have a proud chest, you're engaging your entire posterior chain to help aid in that spinal integrity that we're talking about. Do some practice, and would love to see some videos of what you're doing so I can engage and give you some coaching.